You're someone with a vision for your practice, for your side hustle, and for your personal journey. But when it comes to establishing your path on how to get to where you want to be with your practice, things get a little messy. You're also someone who'd prefer to go in person instead of to groups and listening to everyone else's story. To me, it sounds like you could benefit from one-on-one consulting with our experienced practice of the practice consultants. From $5.95 a month and up, you can work with a consultant that will give you more direction and practical tried and tested tips matched to you and your goals. For more information, visit practiceofthepractice.com/apply. Again, that's practiceofthepractice.com/apply. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 1092. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast. We get to help you almost every day in the week to start a private practice that thrives, that you absolutely love. We want you to be able to level up however that looks. In fact, one of our newest communities that is within Next Level Practice, so Next Level Practice is our community that's for people in solo practice, is our sustainable solo practice community. So we actually did a bunch of surveys and found that about half of the people that were surveyed were really happy with where they were at. They weren't looking to level up. They weren't looking to have a mega group practice. They weren't looking to be bigger and better. They were happy where they were at. And they just wanted support around their solo practice and to keep doing that. So we now have this within our Next Level Practice community. That's something that actually you don't have to wait for our next launch. You can reach out to us over at practiceofthepractice.com/apply. And you and I will talk about where you're at in practice and then see if that might be a good fit for you to join that sustainable solo practice community. So really excited because we've noticed that people start filling up when they join our community. They have enough clients and then they're like, well, I don't really want to start a group practice yet, but I like this community. I want to stick around. So we listened to those members. And so now we're offering this as well. Also, if you want to do one-on-one consulting, you can use that same link /apply. We'll just have a conversation. Where are you at right now? Where are you headed? And we'll look at kind of what KPIs, what key performance indicators you'd be wanting to get if you did consulting with myself or one of the members of our team to work on your practice wherever you're at. So we do probably, I bet I do 5 to 10 of those pre-consulting calls a week. So there's no need to squeeze you into anything. We just talk about where you're headed and what you're working on. So I'm so excited to have a return guest with us today. Paul Levitin is a podcaster, public speaker, and coach. His podcast, Change Made Easy, teaches anyone who feels stuck or frustrated how to change their habits, routines, and behaviors in a way that feels easy and sticks forever. Paul, welcome back to the Practice the Practice podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe. I've been super excited about this conversation and just looking forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, when I saw you on my calendar this morning, I'm like, here we go. All right, Paul's coming back. So, I love your work. I love kind of the rebranding of Change Made Easy. That's awesome. So tell me about that rebranding of moving into, Change Made Easy.
Yeah, definitely. So for a long time, people, I think what we recorded last was like 3 years ago, which was, I think, several hundred episodes ago. So I don't know how many people have heard that or remember it, which is fine. And also just a huge honor when your team reached out to me about being one of the top 20 episodes of all of the thousands of episodes you did. It was a huge honor for me. So I just wanted to say thank you and thank you for thinking of me. But
yeah, that was actually back episode 621. It was How to Be a Healthy, Happy Human with Paul Levitin. Almost more than 400 episodes ago. We did start doing a ton of episodes a week though. So just a couple years ago. But yeah, definitely circle back to that because that was a killer episode and people just love it.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually had a lot of people reach out to me from your podcast who have come over and started listening to my show because of that episode. So totally thankful for that. And so as that episode title was the Happy, Healthy Human, that's what my podcast and brand used to be, which is, always my goal for people. How do I get them to be happier and healthier? And I started as a personal trainer and a nutrition coach, and then became a board licensed health and wellness coach, and everything was around being happy and healthy. And I recently rebranded to Change Made Easy because I kept coming back to what is the root of everything? What underpins all of this? Like happiness, health. Obviously, these are things that we want, and we have solutions for them. We don't live in a world that lacks for information, especially now. When we recorded last, I talked about maybe Google and podcasts and the other resources we have. Now we have ChatGPT. ChatGPT can
Yeah.
make a workout plan for you. It can make a diet plan for you. It can be your therapist. It can literally do anything. And we have this machine that lives in our pocket that can answer any question any time of the day forever. And people are still struggling. And I just kept coming back to that. Like, what is the disconnect? What is the missing piece? And the one thread that runs through everything, whether it's your health, your fitness, your diet, your mental health, your relationship, your business, is that anything that we want lies on the other side of change, right? And
Mm.
inherently, if you want something that you do not have, something about what you're doing, about your behaviors, about your routines, about your habits has to change to get it. And that's the thing that I think holds so many people back is the very nature of change and what that is. And, through all my various practices, through helping people build themselves, build businesses, I've been a coach in many different areas. The one thing that I kept coming back to is like, okay, if change is the thing that underpins everything, and we understand that change is hard because if it wasn't, you would have already done it, right? No one sets a goal to watch more Netflix. No one sets a goal to not work out. No one sets a goal to scroll on TikTok instead of working on their business. Like the inherent in change is that it's going to be challenging. So the only thing that I could figure out to help the most people is how do we simplify this? How do we make it easy so that they're more consistent? Because we know that consistency is the thing that actually moves the needle. Anyone can do anything once, and that doesn't really do anything. But if you do something long enough, you will always get the result. And again, this is health, this is wealth, this is relationships, this is any area of your life. So the answer that I came to is how do we make things so easy for people that they can't mess this up so they're guaranteed to get the result?
Mm. So, what's an area that you would say people tend to struggle with the most regarding their habits, routines, and behaviors?
So again, it's the three things that I talk about a lot are exactly what I just mentioned: health, wealth, and relationships, right? So health being diet, exercise, right? Everyone knows at this point in time in the year 2024 that exercise is important, right? There's no question. Everyone knows that you are, as a human, your body is supposed to be exercising. Your body is supposed to be eating healthy foods. And yet 60% of Americans are overweight or obese. Something like 80% of people don't get the recommended daily exercise, which is like 190 minutes a week or something like that. It's like an hour and a half a week of exercise, right? In our wealth, so many people want to build a business. We live in the boom era of our generation where the internet has made things possible that were never possible. Your coaching teaches people how to build a practice of one, teaches people how to have their own business. Some people, I'm sure, are doing it all online, all virtually. That was not possible even 10 years ago, but now it is. And it's available to anyone, and everyone wants that. Who doesn't want time freedom? Who doesn't want financial freedom? And yet again, we have all the answers. We have courses like yours. We have the biography of Tim Cook and Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and all of the most successful people in the world. And we can't follow those things, right? So it doesn't matter kind of what realm you're looking at. We run into the same problems that we know there are certain routines that we have to set up to simplify things. There's certain habits that will move us in the right direction. And there's certain behaviors that we need to enact every day. Again, going back to that word consistency, that will step by step move us forward. But people get so caught up in that big, ambitious goal out in the future that they don't take those daily action steps and they end up feeling frustrated. And that's what keeps people stuck a lot of the times.
Yeah, I remember a while ago hearing how there's a HR study that was looking at contributions to retirement and how when you look at a say a retirement match, when you're an employee, it's just a no-brainer. I mean, it's free money. You put in, $1,000 a year, they give you $1,000 a year. But like I forget what percentage it is of people that won't do that. But how there was this study where they took someone's staff photo and they aged it to like age 65, and they put it on the cover of their decision making around retirement, and how the opt-ins went up. I forgot exactly the exact stats, but the idea was it's really hard for us to even picture ourselves, let alone other people, as being older, as being different, as being more fragile. And so when it comes to working out, for example, to think, okay, like going for extra walks, every day or every other day, that's going to help me be able to live longer. But it's like, if I can't even picture myself for retirement when I'm getting free money, like how am I going to be able to do that when it comes to a lot of these micro challenges? And so learning these things that you can do to just make it easier to make those good decisions, to me, is just so fascinating to see what people have discovered. Are there things like that that help people understand maybe the why behind it? Because I think sometimes there's the like, what do I do? But to me, that's like the last decision. Like, sure, yeah, you got to work out, but like, let's work back on the mindsets and the things that get in the way. Like, what are some ways that you think through kind of the why of habit change?
Yeah, so it's a great point. One, you said there's a great book, I think it's called Your Future Self, that talks about a lot of these things. And what they basically found was that when you study the human brain and you put it in like an MRI scanner and you tell someone to think about themselves, like think about how you feel today, a certain part of your brain lights up. And when you tell someone, think about Steve, your neighbor, a different part of their brain lights up. And then when you tell someone, think about yourself 30 years from now, it's the part of their brain that thinks about Steve, the neighbor, not the part of their brain that thinks about me today that lights up. Meaning we think about our future self actually like a separate person. Like that's tomorrow, Paul. That's 10 years from now, Joe. That's his problem. But we're worried about right now, Paul, right now, Joe, right now, Susie. And that's why it's hard. There's a disconnect there. It's hard to get ourselves to take actions in the benefit of our future self when what we really care about is ourself in the present. So a lot of people will say like, okay, but you need a deep why. And this is one of the things that I learned that when I was creating, Change Made Easy, and I specifically use a framework called Easier, was I actually have a kind of a problem with the whole start with why thing, which I love that, right? Start with why. Simon Sinek, everyone's read that book. Everyone knows that you got to have a deep why. You got to have a reason because again, this stuff is hard. And if you don't have a reason to do it, you're not going to do it. The very first episode of my podcast, not as many as yours, but has about 350 episodes right now. If you go all the way back to episode 1, it's titled Start with Why. And yet, again, this brings me to, if that were enough, why aren't people doing better? When I was a personal trainer, I worked at a gym. I mean, at least twice a week, someone would come into the gym and ask for personal training. And the first question I would ask them was like, well, why? What brings you in here today? They go, I have to get fit for my kids. This, the number one reason, right? If not now, when? I'm 45. I know it's going to get worse when I'm 55. So right now is the time to do it. And still, those people with the deepest why ever, you would think doing for your kids, doing for your health, doing for your life, nothing could be a deeper why than that. And those people dropped out at the same rate as the people who said, I just want to look good on the beach. The people who said like, yeah, I just want big arms. There was no difference. There was no correlation between the people who had the deeper why and the people who actually succeeded in getting their goals. You would think that like having that deep-seated why would really make a difference. Now, I do think that that's important. You do need to have that. But I still think that if you're not finding a way to make things easy on yourself, having a why and trying to do things the hard way is still going to lead to long-term failure. Having a deep-seated why will get you started. And it's something that you can come back to when you're really going through it, when you're really struggling. It's like, what's the point of all this? Why am I working so hard? Why am I doing these late nights on my business? Oh yeah, it's because I want to have something to leave behind for my kids. I want to have a legacy or whatever it is like that. But the reality is that is a short-term solution to a long-term problem. When you're talking about the big categories I mentioned, health, wealth, and relationships, these things don't end. You don't get to check a box and then turn it off. Maybe with wealth, when you reach a certain level of wealth, you do get to go on autopilot there. But your health and your relationships, those are lifelong pursuits. If you're listening to this and you're 40, look, you have another 40, 50, 60 years of doing this stuff. If you're listening to this when you're 60, you have 40 more years, right? Like the whole point is this is a long journey. Having a why is a part of that puzzle, but it is not enough to get people to make the changes they need. Because if it were, everyone who had a kid would be healthy.
Right. Yeah. No, I love that. I love that you challenge that idea of a why being kind of like the energy that fuels this vehicle. When you think about then if it's not the why, what makes this feel easy? What makes this stick forever?
Yeah, so I have a framework that I take people through called easier, right? It's literally an acronym, EASIER. I made it easier because I want to make things easy. And what could be easier than that? So I'll walk you through it super quickly. So, and then we can like double tap on any of the pieces. So the first letter is E. E stands for enthusiasm. Enthusiasm to me is the number one, is the biggest part of all of this. I could have left off the rest of the acronym after that because enthusiasm becomes the thing. Meaning enthusiasm is about, do I want the goal? A, but more importantly, do I want the action that gets me the goal? Because a lot of people are enthusiastic about a result, right? Anyone listening to this podcast right now wants to have a better business, wants to have a better something. And they'll go, of course I want that. I call these magic wand goals. If someone had a magic wand and they could give it to you, you would accept it. I would accept $1 million business. I would accept losing 20 pounds. Of course I would. But are you enthusiastic about the day-to-day action steps that it takes you to get there? Are you enthusiastic about paying the money for coaching? Are you enthusiastic about the late nights and the early mornings that it's going to take to build your business through the hard times? It's not just enthusiasm about the result. It's enthusiasm about doing the actual action, right? So that's A. And if you have that, everything becomes easier because you'll want to do the work, right? Next is A for availability. Do you have the resources available to you to do the thing, right? So for exercise, you might need a certain amount of time every week, but you're a busy single parent and you don't have the ability to go to the gym and work out. So you're trying to hold yourself to a standard. Now, is there a way to do it? Could you work out at home? Could you do it? Like there's other ways to do it. But if you're saying I have to go to the gym to be healthy and I don't have time to go to the gym, I don't have the resources available to actually find success. So I'm making it harder on myself. I'm going to eventually quit. EAS, S stands for straightforward. Can I tell you in straightforward terms how I'm going to get from A to B, B to C, all the way to Z? Because complexity is the killer of dreams. Again, all of this hinges on the fact that what we do, as humans, we want to do what's easy and we don't want to do what's hard. That's just the human nature. That's the nature of life. Every cell inside of our body adheres to that principle, right? That's why we like to eat hot fudge sundaes and we don't like to eat Brussels sprouts. And that's why we like sitting on the couch and we don't like to work out, because it's the very principle of life to save energy for the times when we need it. So if something is too complex, if you can't explain to me how to actually do it, that gives your brain a reason to go, this isn't going to work and I'm going to quit. So EAS, I stands for imperfect. So imperfect just means we know that perfection is an unobtainable ideal, right? People talk about this all the time. Well, you can't be perfect all the time. You got to embrace failure, which is true. But I go a step farther and I say that imperfection, failure, whatever you want to call it, is so much a part of the process that you have to look for it. You have to be excited, enthusiastic about the imperfect parts, because the downs are as much a part of the process as the ups. Right. So if you're not willing to have the bad workouts, if you're not willing to have the deal pitches that people don't bite on, if you're not willing to get on the sales calls that people don't buy on, then you're not ready for this. So that's EASI. The second E stands for exponential. Exponential is I want exponential returns on my investment. So people will say all the time, well, if you go to the gym, you look better and you feel better mentally. It's a win-win. Right. So it's like, again, if that were enough, we all know that. We know that the gym is good for your body. And we know now that the gym is good for your mental health. It's one of the things that people talk about all the time. I'm sure there are therapists in listening to this show right now who say that to their clients and still don't go to the gym. So how is it that that isn't enough? Well, that's because win-win isn't enough. I need win-win-win-win-win-win-win. I need to be able to give one and get back 10. Because that's an investment that my brain will go, okay, this is worthwhile for me. I can keep putting this in. So that's EASIE. And the last thing is R, stands for repeatable. Can you do this forever? Not going back to the E for enthusiasm, not just until you get the result. Because a lot of people do that, right? They go, well, I can do this diet until I lose 20 pounds. But then what? You go back to eating how you were before. You go back to what you had before. Well, I can hustle on my business like until the end of the quarter. And then what? The next quarter comes. So if something is worth doing, it's worth doing forever. And if it's not worth doing forever, then it's not worth starting now. Save yourself the time and the energy, find something you're enthusiastic about and that you actually want to do. And then you have a habit that's sustainable for the long term. And that's how you get real results. So I take people through that as like a checklist framework. So whatever habit or routine they're thinking about, I literally have that printed out as a checklist and run them through each piece. And if you can check all of those off, that's how I know that's going to be something that you're going to stick with forever.
I am so excited about Alma. When I had my private practice, I struggled building my caseload, attracting the right clients, managing the business side. And honestly, one of the reasons I didn't take insurance was it was so difficult to navigate. So many of my consulting clients deal with these problems as well. And Alma supports clinicians in building rewarding private practices with simplified insurance credentialing in under 45 days, enhanced reimbursement rates, and guaranteed 2-week payback. Plus a free profile in their searchable, filterable directory, making it easy for clients who are the right fit for your practice to find you. Learn more about how Alma could support your private practice at helloalma.com/Joe. That's hello, ALMA.com/Joe to learn more. I love that framework. I think even just thinking about enthusiasm, like the things that I just do and love doing, like, if I was like, I don't have enough friends, I should go join an improv troupe to make friends. That wouldn't be enough. Whereas to me, and I talk about this all the time on the show because I love doing improv so much. It just makes me laugh so hard. It's like, I've created this group of friends by going to improv, which I'm enthusiastic about. I've made time for it. My parents watch The Girls every Tuesday night, and to me, it's straightforward. It's imperfect. Exponential returns. Like, I have community, I laugh, my abs hurt afterwards, so it feels like a workout, even though it probably isn't. And it's one of those things that there's a lot of older people that do improv, and so I can do it forever. And so when I look at the choices I make in my life, they are easier and follow this framework. And then when I think about, when you said a single parent who doesn't have time, like in their schedule, like I have 85% custody of my kids. And so when I think about the kind of workouts I do planks at home, I do walks around the block, connecting with my partner. And so then it's finding these ways to actually do things to make it easier on myself. What changes have you made now that you kind of have this framework that helps you in a different way?
Yeah. So one, I love everything that you just said, right? I love, also, I went to my very first improv show this past Sunday, actually, funny enough. It was amazing. It was
How was it?
It was so good. I laughed the whole time. It was great. I didn't take part in it. I was just watching, but it was really funny. And it's something that
I remember my first one when I was just like, what they just made that up? That's insane.
Yeah, it's great. But it's exactly like you said, right? So anyone at home can do this exactly what Joe just did, which is run yourself through a habit that you have that works. And you'll see it checks all of those boxes. And then when you think about a habit that you tried to do in the past, maybe it's eating healthy, maybe it's working on your business, maybe it's exercising, and see it's going to have fallen off on one of those rungs of the ladder. 100% of the time. I have not found any time that this doesn't hold true. Exactly like you just said. It's like improv. I'm enthusiastic about it. It's straightforward. It's like, and it's like, and for the exercise thing, right? You found a way to make it accessible. If you would have stuck to the old guard of like, well, working out looks like this, which is squatting with a barbell on my back, which is running a marathon or whatever it is, it wouldn't have been available to you. And then that's when it would have fallen off the tracks, right? But I just keep coming back to, like I said, enthusiasm, because I think that if you take nothing else from this, if you use enthusiasm as the lens and look at everything through, that would be enough. Because if you do things that you want to do, you're more likely to do them. And if you try to do things that you don't want to do, you're going to have a hard fought way to success. It really is that cut and dry. And people will hear that and they'll go, well, I can't just do everything I want all the time. To which I'd say, why not? Because there's a way to do it that you can be enthusiastic about. So for me, I always used to say, when I was a personal trainer, I used to say, I hate running. I never run. And I used to get clients like that. I'd be like, hey, we can lose weight. You never have to run. You never have to step foot on a treadmill. 10 years, I never ran more than a mile. A couple of years ago, I moved to Austin, Texas, and I got invited to go do a run for a men's run club where it was 4 miles, and then we had coffee afterwards. And we ran around the little trail. If you know Austin and downtown, they have a trail around the lake. I did that run, and we got coffee afterwards, and I was like, wait, I like this. It wasn't running that I didn't like. It was running on a treadmill in the gym by myself that I didn't like. Running with a group of guys and talking the whole time and getting coffee afterwards, like that was really fun. All of a sudden, I'm a runner because I found a way to do running that I was enthusiastic about. Now I don't mind getting up early and leaving before the sun is out to get my early morning run because I'm going with a few buddies. And it's now my social time, and it's now filling up my cup rather than draining it. Whether it's business, right? People are like, well, you can become a millionaire if you do TikTok dances. Yeah, you can. And if you love dancing, then that's going to be a great way for you to find success because now you're doing something that you love and that's going to make you rich. It's the whole thing, right? People go, well, you can get rich doing drop shipping or something like that. Whatever the new trendy thing is. It's like, yeah, you can. But who the hell wants to do that? That's the thing. You're of course, you can get rich doing anything. But the point is, do you actually want to do it? And when you find that sweet spot of you're doing the thing that you want to do, you're building your business around therapy because you're helping people. That lights you up. Now, all of the hours, the late days, the early mornings, the no-shows, all of the things that go into it that are part of the process become much more manageable because now it's something that you care about. So if you just look through everything through a lens of enthusiasm, can I be enthusiastic about this? It will never steer you wrong.
Mm. Yeah, it's like I think about the podcasters that I've coached, and they do 10 or 20 podcasts, and they're like, I don't know, like, why am I not getting results? Why am I not making money? Like, it's that idea of, like, when you were saying enthusiasm, do you just want that goal? Do you just want the end result? Or do you enjoy the actual process of, in this situation, making a podcast? And so to me, it's about within our businesses, having times in our business that we're throwing spaghetti at the wall, that we're figuring out ourselves, that we're saying, even in podcasting, do I like interviews? Do I like solo shows? For me, I've realized a solo show feels about 20 times harder than an interview. I feed off of people's answers. I get curious. I want to dig in. And so for the most part, I don't do solo shows unless there's like a big thing I've been thinking about that I really want to dig into. I just make it easier on myself. And so I think that idea of in our businesses, in our life, in the way that we choose to level up, that we think through, like, what's the stuff that we just enjoy doing and that we could just keep doing. I think too often that kind of hashtag hustle culture is all about becoming like this optimized person that, you're always drinking a green smoothie and you're working out enough and you have 5-to-1 connection in regards to like following the Gottman approach to relationships. And it just becomes this just sick to-do list of, okay, great, I'm optimized, but I'm not happy. What are your thoughts on that kind of hustle culture and ways that you think about, especially when it comes to goal setting? Because goal setting, that sort of like behavior change often falls into this kind of douchey, just like, be your best bro. And it's like, you clearly aren't saying that. Like, but what do you think about kind of how your model is different from the model of just like that kind of like bro hustle culture?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to me, this is the antithesis of all of that, right? I mean, I say all the time, it's like, I love a good David Goggins rant, Andy Frisella, 75 hard, rah, rah, man up, do it, just like the rest of us. And I come back to, and yet, if that were enough to help people, the world would be a different place. How many people start 75 hard? How many people finish it? How many people have read David Goggins' book or listened to him on some podcast, yell and rant and rave? And how many people actually got up and changed their life the next day? And of those people who did, how many of them stuck with it 6 months later, a year later? So for me, this is not about some platitude or some motivational BS. This is about how do I help people change in the real world, in real life. And if I thought that I could yell at someone to do that, I would do that. And anyone listening to this, again, who is schooled in any form of therapy will know that you can't shame someone into change. You can't coerce someone into change. You cannot force anyone to change. People change when they're ready to. And what makes someone ready is lowering the barrier to entry. So that's what this is. It's not like, oh, okay, like oh, well, how can we make things easy? It has to be hard, right? Like everyone, that's the pushback I always get on this. Well, life is hard. You got to be able to do hard things. It's like, yeah, no shit. Life is hard, and it's hard enough already without you making it harder on yourself. So change made easy is all about, I already know life is going to be hard. Like I said, even if you start with enthusiasm, even if you have everything available to you, even if it's straightforward, even if it's imperfect, even if it's exponential, even if it's repeatable, you have all that, it's still going to be hard. You find the perfect thing that you want to do, that you have the resources available, and blah, 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 blah. It's like life still happens. You still have 85% custody of your kids and they get sick. And you still have a business partner who drops out, or you still lose money. And like all of that stuff still happens. So the easier framework is just meant to give you a fighting chance, because the newsflash is when life happens, when, as Mike Tyson says, when you get punched in the face, right? And life punches you in the face all the time. When it's already hard, that's when you throw your hands up in the air and go, well, I tried. Can't do this. This is impossible. I can't keep up with this. It's just not realistic. But when you're enthusiastic about it, you roll with the punches because you go, I want to do this anyway. Even if I never made another dollar from podcasting, I want to keep podcasting. So when it gets hard, it's something that I love to do. That is the difference maker. And then you extrapolate that over time, over days, months, years, and decades. And that's the difference between nothing and everything.
So awesome. Paul, the last question I have is, if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
Yeah. So specifically going off of that point is, how can you make things easier? Right? That this has been a lot of like high level stuff in terms of just life in general, but we could bring it down to the level of a private practitioner. How can you make it easier for people to sign up for your offerings? How can you make it easier for them to contact you? Do you make them fill out a form online and then fill out the same form when they come into the office? Do you have 3 links to click through on your landing page when it could just be 1? Like, these are the things that make the difference between someone coming in and coming in again versus someone who clicks the first link and says, screw this. Or someone who comes in the first time and they go, I had to jump through too many hoops, and they end up not coming back again. The easier we can make anything for someone, the more chance we have of them showing up a second time. And you can only change someone's life when they keep showing up.
So awesome. Paul, if people want to listen to your podcast, if they want to follow your work, where should we send them?
Yeah, so Change Made Easy is the podcast. I would love for anyone to listen. Joe does have an episode back there. I don't know what number it is, but you can search it as well. And then if you want to connect with me on social media, it's just at Paul Levitin across all platforms: Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you want to find me.
So awesome. Well, Paul, thank you so much for being on the Practice of the Practice podcast.
Thank you for having me. And hopefully this is another rock star episode.
I have no doubt it will be. Thanks for being on the show. Well, if you are inspired by this episode, we often say, don't just consume. When you're listening to these things, that's consuming. It's like taking in a TV show or a YouTube video. You're just taking it in. I want you to go apply. What are you going to apply from this episode? We have this framework, easier, that Paul shared with us. So enthusiasm, availability, straightforward, imperfect, exponential, and repeatable. I wrote that down. I'm going to personally leave that next to my computer and think through the personal goals that I have. And so I work out probably 40% of what I should work out. And so thinking about, okay, I've moved towards eating healthier. I've made that easy on myself. We signed up for a CSA, which then, that community supported agriculture. We split with some of my best friends. So every week I get to see them. And so like eating healthy is easy. But how do I think through this framework and say, okay, how do I move my body a little bit more? Walking the dog, going for hikes, doing some planks. I feel like I could take it up a notch. And I think that this framework for me really allows me to think through first, giving myself permission that I'm in a busy time of life, being a single dad and getting these girls to everything they need to go to. I'm probably moving my body quite a bit just to live life. And so even just giving myself some of that permission to say, is my availability of resources, of just mostly time, is that something that I just need to say, okay, I want time with my daughters, I want time with my partner, I want to walk the dog. Maybe it's just that we do even more things kind of actively together. When they're like, let's just go watch a movie, maybe we go for a hike or something. So I love this framework to just think through it, to apply it to my own life. I'm not sure how your practice is going. I hope it's going great. If you have a practice where you're not as full as you want to be, I wanted to share a resource with you. You can get a free profile. It has a filterable directory that's made easy for your clients who are looking for you. Also, Alma, they give you 45-day credentialing, enhanced reimbursement rates, and a guaranteed 2-week payback. So Alma is such a great resource. If you haven't checked them out, head on over to helloalma.com/Joe. Again, that's helloalma.com/Joe. You can check them out. They're going to help you grow your private practice in ways that maybe right now you aren't growing. Thanks so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.